Good morning.
One question that I have
Good morning, Ms.
is about
Is that you?
Yeah, hold on. I gotta, there's another conference call that I'm trying to ignore.
Okay, okay.
file one. I'm working on one myself.
All right. Are we ready? We have a quorum, Ms. Gonzalez, and the live stream is already just started, so we can go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. And we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Mr. Davis,
I'm Mike Davis.
Ms. Montoya, Ms. Gonzalez,
I, Trish Gonzalez.
and Mr. Freitas just joined. Mr. Freitas, can you hear us?
Measures as well.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just turned my mute off.
Okay, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. And Mr. Quesada.
Hi, it's on.
All right, thank you. We have a full board today, so appreciate everybody for being here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of the United States of America
and to the
and
republic,
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Righty, next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda and previous minutes. The agenda was, is reflected for today's meeting and the minutes from our last meeting on December 18th. Both of these documents or items have been previously emailed to you for your review. So if you'd like to take a few more moments to review that again. And also, if you have any questions, we can entertain those at this time as well.
For department and HCS, so I'll get the one set up for PCG today, and that department will be done. And then we're going to build the E&M code with a place service for telehealth guys. Okay. Yeah, that's what we're going to build. And then self-pay, we do have a new self-pay rate. What is her name? Amy sent me the.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we can entertain a motion for approval of the agenda for today, January 29th, 2025, and the previous minutes from December 18th, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I also move that we accept the minutes, the agenda.
Okay,
I'll
thank you,
second
Mr. Davis. And Mr. Quesada, thank you for that second.
Seeing
Seeing no
no
opposition.
opposition, motion carried.
All righty, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the open forum. I am, again, double checking my Zoom room. There's no participants waiting, and we are here at the school. There's nobody from the public that would like to join an open forum here in person either. So at this point, we can move on to item 4, discussion and action on fiscal, and I will release the floor to our school business official, Ms. Cabral.
Good morning, everyone. So I am going to begin with our overall budget updates for December 2024. So you'll see in this grid, it's a little different than what we've seen in the past. The highlighted red cells are, since we're at our halfway point of the fiscal year, these are the items that we have over 50% of budget remaining. So our plan is to get a strategic plan in place to get these funds spent down. Things like Medicaid and the Spaceport grant, those are carryover funds. So we're not really too concerned about those because we can bring them into fiscal year 25-26. But everything else, except for like the activity funds, the 2 3s here, those are carryover funds as well. But if you'll take a look, we're doing pretty well in our spend down as of December 2024. But again, like I said, we will come up with a plan to get some of these funds spent down by June 30th, 2025. So going into our visuals, we're going to start off with our budget updates, with budget over 10,000 and expenditures 5,000 and above. This really hasn't changed, and I don't think it really will. We are carrying our salaries and benefits at, the most that we have expenditures in our budget. Going in with our audit, software, and you can kind of go through these as you'd like. Our next visual is for our reimbursable funds, budget versus actuals. And you'll see those orange bars kind of getting to that allocation point. So like you saw in our previous spreadsheet, we are going to meet a lot of these award allocations to be spent down by the end of the year. Wow. Moving on to our revenue comparison, we're comparing December 2023 to December 2024. We did have about a 12% increase from last year, and this is due to a little bit of the increase in our SEG, as well as those reimbursable funds coming in and being submitted in a monthly. And then our last visual is our enrollment data. This is current as of January 27th, so Monday this week. And it looks like we have added 5 additional student enrollments, bringing us to a total of 218. So you can go through this MEM worksheet down in the bottom of the spreadsheet that was shared and go through and compare December to January. So that's available if you'd like to kind of go through that data. And then our last one is our demographic.
So while Priscilla is getting that back up, yes, we did have an increase in enrollment. We did actually lose 9 students during the, basically during the break from one semester to the other. But we netted 5 additional ones. So we enrolled, 15 or so new students from our last meeting to this one. But again, lost 9 due to various reasons, moving out of state, just lack of attendance, just the normal reasons that we usually, have that mobility. But the good news is that we did replace those and plus 5 more since then. And that graphic looks like it's back up there, so you could see the breakdown in the demographic with all the different factors there.
So moving on to revenue for December 2024, we are totaling $247,747. You'll see that some of the student organizations have been fundraising through the Winterfest event that we held at the school. So deposits are reflected there for that event, as well as RFRs that have been received, and our HB 33 allotment and student nutrition reimbursement. And to the right, you'll see pending RFRs, and we're totaling $170,342 pending as of Monday. So you'll see this reflected, reflecting January's expenditures next month, but we are current through December 2024 in all of our RFRs.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is. Kudos to the state for that as well, and Priscilla. and Myrna for their hard work in getting all the paperwork in timely as well.
So moving on to disbursements, for December, we are totaling $332,777. This was also provided, previous to the meeting. So if you'd like to kind of go through and see in detail, what our expenditures for December were, you're more than welcome to do that. Does anyone have any questions on the budget reports so far? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our action item. So we are asking the board to approve an initial budget bar for a grant that we received to improve our school kitchen infrastructure. This one was a little bit different in that we had to provide a notice of obligation to the Department of Finance and Administration before we were actually able to encumber any of this money. So that has been sent over to DFA for approval, but we have, I do have the quotes and that notice of obligation here so that the board can review. So we received an award of $45,000 to spend before the end of June 2025. So we did go with a CES vendor to kind of circumvent those procurement issues that we might see in audit. So Standard Restaurant Supply is a CES vendor, and Amazon is the place where we were able to find a piece of equipment that they did not carry. So you'll see there's refrigerators included, ice makers, milk cooler, freezers, just anything that we are needing to update or replace in our own kitchen area for the school.
Also a warming oven and a steam oven as well. Steam table, yes.
So again, that award is in the amount of $45,000, and we are asking for the board's approval on that bar. So if there aren't any other questions regarding fiscal, that's all that I have for December 2024.
Thank you, Priscilla. Is there a motion to approve budget as presented and for the approval of the supply and assets?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Kevin.
Go ahead, Mr. Freitas.
On the disbursements for December, there's an amount for 2,282 World's Finest Chocolate. What was that? And I guess its description is $2 purple box. Are those like gifts that were given out?
This was actually a fundraiser ran by Ed Rising for the box of the $2 chocolates, the fundraiser boxes. So that's what World's Finest Chocolate is.
Okay.
Yeah, so those students in that club, they sold chocolate over the course of a couple of months to try to raise money for their program.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
Could we possibly add, just to clarify in case maybe we're audited or maybe we make the recommendation to put next to it, maybe in parentheses, fundraiser? Or is there a space we can put that on?
Yes, so this description field here is usually populated when we create the PO. So I can get that into maybe reflect something like.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, because then that way, if anything ever changes or people change or life changes, we at least can go back and make sure that if we're audited, we all know also as a board, if there's a fundraising mechanism in place, it just gives us that trigger.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. You
Yeah, I have
always
another
figure it
question.
out, Priscilla.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
On these, when we have our finance meetings, when do we have our finance? When are they required? when did we decide when we're gonna do them? Is it like every month, every quarter, or what?
We had kind of decided to do them, well, I don't think the frequency was really decided on, but having them the Monday before our board meetings.
So,
Because I think what we should do as part of that is when we look at these financials every month, we probably should pick out like a category. For example, travel reimbursements. You know, because those are paid to like individuals, right? To like the staff
Right.
and fuel.
Okay.
So maybe, you know, if the amounts for that month is, let's say an example, over $1,000 total, or 2,000, whatever limitation we want to make, then maybe we should look at it as one of those items to see what makes up all the items.
Okay, and I think the easiest way, because it has been discussed before, for business office to do that is probably, you'll see the voucher number here in this column, is maybe scanning, you know, the batches into a shared folder with our finance committee. That way those are readily available to kind of compare to our disbursement listing here.
and then you'll be able to see all the backup, you know, documents and paperwork and whatever you need, you know, receipts and all of that goes along with that particular reimbursement. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, but we don't have to do it like every month. I'm just
Right.
saying every quarter, if the amount's, you know, substantial, then we should be notified. And then if we want to have it available, and then we'll look at it.
Okay,
I
that
just
sounds
want
good.
to have the extra work. But until the board determines like, hey, we want to look at child reimbursements for, you know, December. Once we already looked at it, then we could decide in January that everybody has a chance, all the board members have a chance to look at the invoices.
Okay, thanks for that suggestion, Kevin. We can put that in place.
Thanks.
One quick question
Yes,
On
Mr.
the,
Casal, go ahead.
related to the quote on for the kitchen, all the appliances and everything. Can you just share a little bit about the necessity of it, and if that goes through, if we get the vote, which I'm leaning towards, what's happening with the older items there, or are they that bad? I mean,
Yeah, they are. We actually are borrowing some of those items from LCPS, you know, their nutrition services is in our building, so fortunately, it was kind of easy to do that. But for example, like our warming oven, the heating coils in ours have been out pretty much all year, so they loaned us some of, you know, their equipment so we can have that back in operation. Our steam table is old and outdated, and all of our equipment we have not replaced or received any new equipment since 2007. So all of those things are in dire need of update. You know, we don't have a milk cooler, so that's gonna make things a lot easier right now. We just transport, you know, from a refrigerator and put them out for, you know, 5 to 10 minutes before they start losing their temps, and then we have to put them back in. So once we have that milk cooler, they could just stay in there. It'll be a lot more efficient. So, you know, all of those items, yeah, are definitely in need of upgrade, and those items will just be, those older items will just be, they're not even on our inventory, I don't believe, because they're aged out. So we're going to, you know, just dispose of those items, especially the ones that are not worth, you know, keeping around or fixing. Like the refrigerators still work, so we'll have those for backups and maybe put those like in our teacher's lounge. Right now, Nutrition Services has some of their refrigerators in our lounge. So they'll be taking those with them once they move out of our building. So if we can't use it as a backup, we'll just dispose of those older items.
Perfect. Thank you for the info.
No problem. Thank
Has,
you.
you know what, I just wanted to ask if I might have missed this portion. Did we have to go out to bid with those specific vendors like we had to when we were audited with the vehicle?
No, I can answer to that. So we're going to be using Cooperative Educational Services. That company goes out and solicits procurement for any items, depending on categories for contracts that schools can use. Being that they've already gone out to bid, they've already awarded multiple vendors contracts, and they're providing us a small discount. So that the procurement process has already been followed by CES, and as a
Oh, good.
member, able to use those contracts that they've issued or awarded to certain service providers, and they are available by region. So
Okay.
this restaurant equipment provider was a CES vendor. We shouldn't have any problems with audit since they
Okay.
are, already vetted.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
And yeah, we'll remind the board also that the kitchen equipment was a grant award, which we will get reimbursed for the entire, $45,000 order there. And we in fact did go over a little bit by I think $800 or $900 that we'll just pick up out of operations. So, we will receive the majority or the bulk of that money back in our operational budget. All right, any more
Then
questions?
I'll make the motion to approve
Okay.
the finances and also for the quote and the purchase of the kitchen's appliances.
All right, thank
I
you, Mr.
second it.
Quesada. Thank you, Mr. Freitas, for that second. Seeing no opposition, motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for those approvals. We'll move on to the last item, which has multiple things underneath it, my report, and there is one action item at the end. I'll explain that when we get there. We did already go over enrollment, but I just want to, add one more thing that, our enrollment is significantly increased from basically every reporting period. We keep getting students that want to come to Las Montañas on a weekly basis. And we're not, formally advertising. We're not spending any funds on advertising or running any ads or campaigns. It's literally just all community, recommendations and referrals and word of mouth. And I guess the community is figuring out, our transition to, a career-focused model, and students are coming to see what that's about and to experience it and to help them, get into, a career and have those skills. And really, we're just starting. So I anticipate our enrollment to continue to go up. A lot of charters around the state and even in our community are struggling with enrollment. So it's really nice not to have to worry about that. And in fact, we should be seeing some increases in budget and funding soon based on this year's numbers. And then next year's budget should be an increase as well, based on our enrollment numbers. So I just really applaud the entire school community, you all as a board, for letting us, do a lot of these innovative things. And then, my staff, my admin team, my instructional staff, my support staff, obviously all play a role in building the school community up into a space where students do want to come here. So, I just wanted to make that point. So now I'll move on to the next item, the innovative zone update, with all of those, A through F being involved in what we're doing with the innovative zones and that grant as well. And I am going to introduce a new face to our meetings, Mr. Matt Sandoval, sitting here. He's part of the admin team, the leadership team. He does all of the scheduling, all of the credit analysis, among a lot of other things. And he's going to specifically today talk about some of the term passing grades that we've analyzed for, the last term that we've had, as far as what the completion and the credit analysis that we've seen in students earning those term passing grades and credit towards their graduation requirements.
Hello, everybody. So we looked at disaggregating term threes, pass rate data. And when we look at end of year last year, we had a pretty low term pass rate, targeted pass rate that was at 38%. Looking at last term threes pass rate, that grew 20% to 58 to have a 58% targeted pass rate. Which 20% is a huge amount of growth for a targeted pass rate in such a short amount of time. But when that data was disaggregated even further and we broke it down to see the pass rate for our projects that we're implementing, that pass rate has risen to 79%. So we've nearly doubled our term pass rate through the implementation of these projects.
So that kind of transitions to the next few items there, just CTE in general and the project-based learning. So, we implemented PBL in terms 3 and 4 with one project. We've progressed into 2 projects for terms 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, which is, going to happen later this semester. So right now, students come to school, they have breakfast after the bell, then they go right into a CTE focused or career program of study focused project that also has content standards embedded in that. And then they have, an elective class, they have lunch, another elective class, an hour each there, with lunch in between. And then at the end of the day, from 2 to 4, our last block, they're in another project, which is more focused on the content standards. So students, are in a large group with 3 to 4 teachers facilitating a project. Sometimes the group splits off into, different smaller groups. Sometimes they stay in that large group. We did some walkthroughs this week. Students already from the walkthrough data are more engaged. There's some things that we still need to work out and learn from, but I am satisfied with the progress we've made so far. In our PBL, our teachers are working really hard in planning and facilitating and executing and implementing the projects and trying to make them, relevant to a career pathway, relevant to real world application, and at the same time, embedding standards in there that will progress students, transcripts towards the graduation requirements. So that's what's happening with all of that. And as Matt just mentioned, the term passing grades do reflect an increase in student engagement and passing their classes or their projects versus the data that we had, last year and at the beginning of the year. We're also continuing to place students in work-based learning. I'll have Mr. Jeff Waugh, our work-based learning coordinator, do a little more detail on that at next month's meeting. I've already talked about the students that are doing the home build with the New Mexico Contractors Association. That's still progressing. There's been a little pause the last couple of weeks because of inspections. The inspections, as you probably know, if you know anything about the construction industry in our community, sometimes take a little longer than we'd like. So the electrical has all been completed, but the inspection based on that electrical by the inspectors has not been, they have not shown up on site yet or been approved. So we're kind of at a standstill and waiting for that before we move on to the next phase in that home build. Students also continuing to go to J. Paul Taylor with the Near Peer program and trying to, create future educators, future teachers that are working with elementary school students and those teachers still. twice a week for, I think, a total of about 6 hours a week. We have a student in the IT department at NMSU that's going a few days a week there. And we are working on placing priority right now with seniors. So Mr. Waugh will have a little more update on that at next month's meeting. The next item is staff development, training, and travel related to CTE. 2 weeks ago, myself, Matt, Priscilla, Antoinette, our CTE director, for 2.5 days, we're at a NMPED, College of Career Readiness Bureau leadership workshop. So we had to attend that. It was mandatory. And then later that week, from the middle of the week to the end of the week, there was the Association of Career Technical Education conference that some of us stayed for, and that other teachers, CT teachers from ended up going to Albuquerque to participate in that as well. So we're constantly exposing ourselves and our staff to different workshops, conferences that will build our capacity to implement our CTE vision. Going along with that, we're able to hire a contracted service individual to help with our construction program. So, you know, right now, our main construction teacher, Mr. Salas, is taking students to the home build. There's students here left over that are in the beginning stages of the construction pathway that need to be, you know, taught and serviced. So we have, through the Innovative Zone Grant, been able to hire a person for 4 hours a day in the morning to work with Mr. Salas and our construction students, as well as that entire project-based learning team, which includes the audiovisual pathway as well. This individual happens to be a special ed teacher, so we did need some support in that area in the afternoons. So he actually has 2 contracts. The first one is through Innovative Zone Grant, doing what I just explained. Then in the afternoon, we're using IDEA funding to have him support students in an inclusion setting in the project-based learning block in the afternoon, and working specifically with students, you know, with disabilities who need a little bit of extra help. So he's highly qualified in that area, experienced, and we, you know, onboarded him this week, and he's currently, you know, in our classrooms working with our teachers and our students. So we're happy to have added that individual to our staff. Any questions over any of that? All right, thank you all. We'll move on to the renewal, the next steps, which is the contract negotiations. We've been going back and forth, basically through email. I believe, Ms. Gonzalez, you've been involved in many of those emails, and trying to prepare for contract negotiations, which happens on February 14th in Santa Fe at 11 a.m. So we will be there in person, myself and Matt and our partners, Mr. Dan Hill, who's on the call right now, Ms. Sam Gonzalez, who's been helping us out. We'll be there in person and you know, negotiating our next 5-year contract. Mr. Dan Hill, would you like to kind of expand on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just letting the treadmill stop. I think, you know, contract negotiations, call it a negotiation, but there's really not a lot that's actually negotiated. The bulk of the work right now is being done by Sam in terms of getting ready your performance framework. And because you're what's called an option 3 school, it's a little bit more complicated than, you know, maybe for some of the other schools. And then we'll work on mission specific goals. But really, those are the 2 areas that'll actually be negotiated. Everything else is pretty pro forma. I feel like we're on kind of track. I did check in with Sam. She's working in the legislative session, but she's confident of kind of where we are. The only, you know, kind of thing we have to look out for is we want to make sure what we put in the performance framework and the mission specific goals we're really able to measure, because we don't have a lot of confidence that the state's going to be able to, you know, Vistas or whatever kind of systems they're using, we don't really have confidence that they work. And so the local measures, we want to make sure we understand and are going to be able to, actually execute on giving that data to the PEC so we can show we're making, making those goals and making improvements. But otherwise, I think everything's on track.
Thanks, Dan, for that update. Yeah, I agree. Everything I think is on track. There's gonna be some, some different things that we're measured and assessed on. One of them is gonna be the ACT Work Keys Assessment, which I'm excited about. I think that's, gonna help our students as far as, the vision that we have. So we're gonna assess those students in a reading and math assessment, but more importantly, when they're seniors, they're gonna be taking a workplace readiness assessment. It'll come with a certificate if they pass it, and they'll be able to use that, on their resume. And a lot of industry and corporations and companies do accept those as like, hey, you know what you're doing, and they'll have a leg up when they get to trying to choose a career and trying to get a job, get them going on that career. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Ms. Gonzalez, like I said, is involved in all those emails, and she's going to be at those negotiations, either in Zoom or in person. Not sure what she decided there yet, and we'll let you know how that goes, and then you'll obviously see the contract and approve it once that gets completed. Any other questions on that?
No, sir. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, sounds good. Us too. Next item is mental health first aid training. And basically it's exactly what you think it is there. Obviously there's first aid training, CPR and all of that. But there's also mental health first aid and how to respond to students who have, mental health issues or trauma. Obviously we work with a population that is significant in that area. So all of my instructional staff and some of my support staff this past Friday did participate in a 6-hour training and receive their mental health first aid training certificates. So I just wanted to make the board aware that did occur, and that the majority of adults in this building are mental health first aid training certified to this point. So we have those certificates. We'll put them in their file. That is good for 3 years. So we'll have to renew that in 3 more years. But we did do that, and I'm grateful for getting that done. And we have more skills now to better equip us with dealing with a lot of different issues that our students come to us with. I'm going to ask Mr. Estrada at this time to do a little recap on an event that our Enlace students had a major involvement in, and that was the National Racial Day of Healing event that took place last week.
Madam President, members of the board, I had the privilege last Tuesday of accompanying Ms. Salas and her Enlace group to NMSU. They were instrumental in helping the National Racial Day of Healing event that went on over there. Our Enlace students served primarily as greeters, ushers, in some cases servers, but they were all heavily involved, and it was nice to be able to step back and see their personability and their professionalism at an event like that. So I really wanted to congratulate them and Ms. Salas. That particular event, the marquee event that happened there was a mural that had been working on at one of the halls at NMSU, and they also had breakout sessions, and it was a long day for those students, because not only did they come to school, albeit on a 2-hour delay that day, they were able to work through the school day and then work through about 9:30 that night. So I was extremely proud of the way they handled themselves over there. And Ms. Salas for training them the way that they needed to be trained for that event.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Estrada. Appreciate that. And I believe it was attended by, I think, over 300 members of the community. So our students got a lot of exposure and practice and a lot of those communication skills that are tied to, obviously, as you all know, workplace learning skills as well. Okay, the next item, I was not at that event because I was in Espanola at the Career Connected Learning Alliance. This is a group of about 25 individuals, legislators, people from NMPED, especially the College and Career Readiness Bureau, a lot of industry partners around the states or business people, and just a few, superintendents, and just one charter leader myself. And the purpose of the Career Connected Learning Alliance is to really advocate for the innovative zone principles, showcase what schools around the state that are in the IZ are doing, and have that continued support as far as funding with the legislators, and really promote those innovative zone principles to other schools and districts around the state, not just charter schools, but large districts, small rural districts, and everything else in between. So again, I was in Espanola working with that group, and there was a lot that got done, a lot of advocacy that's taking place right now at the legislative session, and making sure that that CTE funding does not get ignored, and we're able to carry out our innovative zone principles with some of the support and resources that NMPED and the legislators and our partners are providing. That's really critical, and especially for us and other IZ schools, and moving forward with our mission and vision that's related to innovative zones. In our case, you know exactly what that is. So again, we're progressing through our own vision with the help and support of all of our partners and our funding, which is really advocated for through this Career Connected Learning Alliance. Okay, our last item, it is an action item. It is a school mission change, but it's only minor wording. And I'm sorry I did not add that to our packet. Okay. I'll go ahead and send our mission to Priscilla so she could share it. But let's see. Sorry about that. One thing I forgot here. Okay, just send an email, just actual statement. So basically our mission is not changing at all as far as what's in it, but I'll show you here in a second. Our previous mission officially in our contract says, wait till Priscilla pulls that up. It says Las Montañas will develop the academic potential and personal character of each student by engaging and valuing the students' family and community partnerships. Students will work to prepare for and meet the challenges of a post-secondary workforce environment for a globally diverse society. So we just need to pull out that name of the school at the beginning that says Las Montañas Charter will develop. And you guys already approved the school name change, so we just had to revise the minor wording of the mission to omit the name Las Montañas Charter in that mission statement officially, and we don't even have to put the new name in it. This will work. Again, it's not a change in our mission at all. It's just removing our old, what will be our old school name, and that's all. Okay, so are there any questions on that? If not, we can make a motion to approve a change in the school mission with just a minor wording change.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we accept the recommendation of making a name change.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis, for that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Quesada, for that second.
Okay, seeing no opposition, motion carried.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for that. And,
I have one question.
yeah, go ahead, Mr. Davis.
What have we taken, let me put it this way. What are the chances that someone from the outside will come and try to, look at our students, see if they're citizens, of the United States? Have we have anything in place for that?
Yes, that is a good question. I'll go ahead and answer that. We as a school, and this is true of all public schools, we do not know the immigration status of our students. That's not something that we collect. That's not data that we collect. That's not something that we ask about, upon enrollment. There's no paperwork for that. So if any, and there's going to be a meeting this afternoon with PCS&M, other charter leaders to get more clarity. But if any federal law enforcement agency comes to the school, Mr. Dan Hill, maybe you could help me out with this as well. I don't believe we have to cooperate with them because we don't even know. We don't know the status of our students. So
Yeah,
you
you can answer that.
Yep.
I think, and I'm doing that call at, I guess it's 1 o'clock also, tomorrow, or 11 tomorrow. But so a couple things. One, as Cass said, we're required to serve all students that reside within our attendance boundary, subject to our enrollment cap and registration and everything, right? And that includes everyone regardless of immigration status or citizenship. So there's a Supreme Court case that's Plyler versus Doe that establishes that. So schools in New Mexico and most places don't seek out immigration or citizenship status of students. So it's not even a record we would have. If law enforcement of any kind of stripe were to ask for records regarding students, we would have to follow FERPA. And so directory information is not covered, which would be like their name and, address basically. But everything else, they would need a warrant or subpoena for that's issued by a judge. And then if law enforcement, including immigration services, were to show up at the school, unless they have a judicial warrant, and I say judicial warrant because I guess ICE has administrative warrants they use that don't really mean anything, but we're talking about a warrant that's signed by a judge. Unless they have that, they really have no business on campus and we don't have to let them in. And so most schools are adopting policies that just confirm that of, if immigration were to show up, we're not going to allow them on campus. And the only way they would be allowed in is if they have a valid judicial warrant. Kind of in practice, what should happen is if someone shows up, you kind of keep them either in the lobby area or outside the building, you ask for their credentials. And if they have any paperwork, you ask for that. And then, the school would call me and send copies of all that stuff and we'd start figuring. But I think we want to be clear to our community that we're not, if immigration shows up, they're not just given unfettered access to the building. They're not allowed on campus, unless they were to have a warrant. I think in practice, we're not going to actually see a lot of immigration going into schools. I know they've kind of made some moves and said that that's kind of on the table, but I think for a lot of reasons, it's not really the best idea for them. I mean, at a kind of basic level, if immigration comes into a school, even a high school, most students don't have IDs, or, a lot of students, if you ask them if they're a citizen or not, might not even know the answer, frankly, particularly in the younger grades. And so it's not the sort of place that immigration officials are really going to have a lot of success. I think there's been some quotes in news media saying basically the same, that they're saying it's, would be a very rare circumstance that they come into a school. I also think everything's been so crazy the last, I don't know, week and a half that we don't really know. And so we want to be prepared and make sure we have the right policies and everyone at the school is aware of what to do. So I think that's kind of all I have. I don't know, Kaz, if you want me to add anything else.
No, thanks, Dan. No, that's it. Does that answer everything, Mr. Davis and anybody else?
Yeah, so y'all are prepared. That's, okay, that's all I need.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Gonzalez, are we ready for adjournment?
I think we're ready. If there's a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for the motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
I'll second it.
Dino,
Montoya beat all of you,
opposition.
so thank you, Ms.
Motion
Montoya,
carries.
for that second. Seeing no opposition, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, everyone.
All right, thank you all. Bye, Mike.
All right, bye.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya.